Good afternoon, I'm Sean Yao, and this is One News Now. The country's economic growth slowed to just 4.3% in the second quarter of 2023. This is slower compared to the 6.4% GDP or gross domestic product logged in the first quarter of the year. The biggest contributor to the decline is the biggest contributor to second quarter GDP is the services sector, including the accommodation and food service industries. However, the slower growth is being blamed on several factors like inflation, the lag effects of interest rate hikes, the slowdown in government spending, and the absence of election-related spending. So far, the Philippines' average GDP growth in the first half is at 5.3%, lower than the government's full-year target of 6 to 7%. NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan explained that to hit their target, the GDP will have to grow by at least 6.6% in the second half of this year.
We recognize that we shall continue to confront a challenging economic environment in 2023 and 2024. The economic team is closely monitoring domestic and external developments and is ready to make policy adjustments to ensure that we attain our medium-term growth targets. We firmly believe that the prospects of the Philippine economy remain strong and positive.
President Bongbong Marcos is worried about the country's debt-to-GDP ratio. The chief executive finds the 63% figure for the country as not ideal and a little too high. The average acceptable or the international standard for debt-to-GDP ratio stands at 60%. Nevertheless, the chief executive believes that the Philippines is, quote, doing better than its neighbors. President Marcos says his government is now working on reducing the GDP to debt ratio by tempering inflation and cushioning the effects of elevated interest rates.
As it stands, it's about 63%, and that's a little high for us. It is not ideal. We are working very hard to continue with that growth trend. We are, however, beset by the problems of inflation. And that is why the monetary policy has been quite robust and increasing. But then we worry about the constriction of the economy by very high interest rates. And so this is something that we have to balance.
In other news, one group is warning of empty shelves in supermarkets if the Trade Department does not approve the price hikes requested by manufacturers. In an interview with A Big Story, Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food President Danilo Fausto said both the production and manufacturing sectors are struggling. Their challenges include rising fuel costs, the El Niño's impact, effects of past typhoons, and the recent daily wage increase in Metro Manila. Fausto warns that if the DTI does not act on the proposed hike in the prices of basic goods, manufacturers could halt delivery.
The manufacturers, I think, have no choice but to ask for a little increase in order to recover, or else they might be losing money and not operate at all. Hindi na sila magdi-deliver. We will have a vacant shelf. Hindi mo naman sila mapupwersa kung palugi na sila magmamanufacture, kung palugi sila magpo-process, bakit pa sila magtitinda?
We'll be pausing for a short break. One News Now will be back with more stories after that. Keep it here. promised to tow away the grounded ship that serves as an outpost in the disputed waters. Beijing also reiterated that it owns the Ayungin Shoal and justified its Coast Guard's water cannon attack on the Philippine Coast Guard back on August 5.
I'm not aware of any agreement that the Philippines should remove from its own territory its own ship, the BRP Sierra Madre, from the Ayungin Shoal. And let me go further. If there does exist such an agreement, I rescind that agreement as of now.
Two former government officials have also rejected China's assertion of a promise to move out the BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin. Former presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo challenged Beijing to show proof of Manila's commitment to remove the vessel. Panelo also served as chief legal counsel during the term of former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Dapat ang China, ipakita nila na may dokumento showing na nag-commit tayo. Ipagpalagay na po natin na may commitment nga. Nag-commit ako noon dahil yung kalakaran noon, the circumstances warranted my observing that commitment of mine. But the circumstances have changed. Hindi na po pwede. Sapagkat meron ng arbitral ruling na amin talaga yun eh.
Former Defense Secretary Orly Mercado also denied pledging anything to China when he was Defense Secretary. During the short-lived term of former President Joseph Estrada in the 90s, then Defense Chief Mercado ordered the BRP Sierra Madre beached in the Ayungin Shoal, also known as Second Thomas Shoal. Mercado also believes that the Philippines must ally with other countries facing issues with China. At the end of the year, maritime patrols between Manila and Washington will begin in the West Philippine Sea. The joint patrols are expected to help promote freedom of navigation in the disputed waters.
Yung mga bansa na mayroong mga problema with China on South China Sea, dapat yan you should move not as lone wolves or paisa-isa. Dapat yan sabi niya, you must move as a pact. Tapos meron tayong defense understanding, mutual defense treaty with the United States, that an attack on any of our vessels is an attack on both countries.
Yes.
And we can invoke that kung atakin tayo.
Let's now take a quick look at today's other top stories. Congress has officially begun deliberations on the proposed 5.768 trillion peso national budget for 2024. The budget will first be scrutinized by the House Appropriations Committee. The government's economic team will then give lawmakers an overview of where the funds will be spent, as well as brief them on targets for next year. The lower chamber is hoping to pass the budget bill on the third and final reading by September 30. And FIVOX is urging continued vigilance as Mayon's unrest enters its second month. Alert level 3 remains over the volcano in Albay, which means a hazardous eruption is still possible. State volcanologists recommend the continued evacuation of those living within the volcano's permanent danger zone. On Wednesday, FIVOX detected 259 volcanic quakes and approximately 45 rockfall events in Mayon. And Pagasa is monitoring a tropical cyclone just outside the Philippine area of responsibility. The weather disturbance is approximately 2,370 kilometers east-northeast of extreme northern Luzon. It is packing winds of 110 kilometers per hour, with gustiness of up to 135 kilometers per hour. It could move westward at a speed of 15 kph in the next several hours. But at the moment, the southwest monsoon or habagat is still being enhanced, and this in turn will bring partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rains over Metro Manila. Voice talent and content creator Inka Magnaye has signed a contract with Warner Brothers Philippines for her upcoming DC role. Inca will be the voice of Kajida or Scarab in the Philippine release of the DC film Blue Beetle, which will be out on August 16. The character will be assisting lead Jaime Reyes, played by Cobra Kai actor Xolo Mariduena, in learning his superpowers. According to Warner Brothers Philippines digital marketing manager Bonch Santos, Inca was their only pick for the role. Inca is the first Philippine-based talent to render voiceovers for a DC film.
We were all just kind of like quiet and floored and also excited. Like it was just generally like a feeling of disbelief and amazement.
One News Now will be back at 3:15 p.m. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.